how to take admission to MBA in Germany.
You first source your universities, which universities, what department you want to do. Every university is unique. Every university will have its own rules.
So is it true that studying in public universities is absolutely free?
You have to still pay for the visa blocked account.
How did you manage to find a job after pursuing MBA from Germany?
If you see an ideal Indian CV, like an average ideal, basic CV, you see the word flexible a lot. That will just confuse them and they're like, what are you?
Is it difficult to have a kid in Germany versus having kid in India?
I think it's not that black and white. And when I had a baby, my first thing was, how are these women planning their day? It's time Germany also looked at India for technology co-creation and equal innovation. There are so many areas where India and Germany beautifully complement each other.
This is first ever episode of a video podcast series from Germany called Deutschland on Air. Surprisingly, today's discussion went so well to the point and we discussed extremely important topics related to Germany. We discussed about whether it makes sense to study in Germany, how to get a job in Germany, what are the common mistakes that usually people do while applying for the jobs. Besides that, we learn if we really need to learn the language to settle in Germany and how difficult to live in Germany as an Indian. We also put some glance on the primary education or the kindergarten culture of Germany. So if you are planning to study, work, start a business, or even if you are planning your family here in Germany, then this episode is going to clear all of your doubts. Let's hear the story from the founder of the Primary Fabric, who is not only an entrepreneur, but also a mother, a lover, a former German Chancellor Fellow, and a representative of German Indian Startup Exchange Program. Sit back and relax today's episode with our lovely guest, Mrs. Amrita Gandikota. First of all, thank you so much, Amrita, for joining our first episode, Deutschland on Air. It's finally, we are here because it was like kind of struggle for us to get it rolling. But now finally, we are here.
I'm very, very honored that I'm your first on this project.
Yeah.
So hopefully wish you a lot of success and really looking forward to see more podcasts on this channel with stakeholders from Germany and Berlin and see how it shapes up. So I'm from Tirupati and I did all my schooling in Tirupati, and I'm from a typical Indian household, if I may say, and both my parents are academics, they're professors into arts. My dad is into philosophy. My mom is also a little bit engaged on the German side. So I learned German a little bit as a kid, and I wanted to study German as a language. And then I thought, okay, if I study Germanistic or, German studies, it's something, it was very new back in the day, like in 2008 was when I started my graduation, and it was not many people even understood what I was doing.
But why German? Was it trending at that time?
No, it wasn't trending really. I did my graduation in English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. And the only other places that were offering such courses is DU, JNU. JNU's department is amazing as well. And right in the same, near home in Hyderabad, they were offering this new program that was set up, and I was super interested in it. Like I said, I learned a little bit of German from my mom in school. So, and I really like languages. I'm attracted to, finding quirks or similarities between different languages, trying to, kind of understand some etymological correlations between even the Indian languages or, foreign languages, what are the similarities and so on. So I don't know, somehow in that spectrum, I really got interested, and I really sucked at math. And had I studied engineering, it would have been a colossal a nightmare.
But is it true that German language is derived from Sanskrit? I heard that. Is it?
See, I wouldn't really go as far and really giving a theoretical examples, but of course there are a lot of similarities. German has there is this der, die, das, nominative, accusative, dative.
I still struggle with them.
And it is a very complex grammatic structure. But if you kind of at least this was my learning mechanism, but I always used to learn German through my mother tongue. And somehow the grammatical structures, especially the nominative, accusative, dative of the verbs, kind of sat pretty accurately. So the norm the
With Telugu.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And even in Hindi, it works in similar ways.
So you did your bachelor's in India, back in India, and
Yes.
you also did your MBA, Master in Business Administration,
Yeah,
right?
so I worked a little bit
After your bachelor's.
after my graduation. I
Okay.
worked a little bit in Amazon, and it was
In Amazon? Okay,
yeah,
nice.
in Hyderabad, which also newly opened up back then.
But you got that position just because you
I know
knew
German. That's it.
yeah?
That's only
Okay.
because of that.
Oh.
And I was working for their German team in Munich, but stationed out of Hyderabad.
What I realized is that if somebody is in India looking for a job in Germany, and if they learn the language, obviously it will help them to get a job here. But I think it will also help them to find a job in
Absolutely.
India, right?
I mean,
So there is no
yes.
harm learning language.
Oh my God, never. I think job is, I mean, absolutely important. You know, we need to think strongly from a career perspective, but any day learning a foreign language, German, French, or Spanish, whatever, but I'm a little more biased to German, is absolutely important, because I think in today's globalized world, learning one foreign language equips you with so many possibilities that yeah, you're just one, just for your brain development, and second for, you know, your career choices.
True.
It's immense. And for example, if a techie or a management graduate or with leadership potential learns a foreign language, you're gonna
Benefit
really
out of it
open
for
up
sure.
a lot of doors for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What I'm saying is, language is not just the only thing. If you have it as an ancillary skill to the existing skills that you have, it's amazing.
I want to understand about the MBA program that you chose, and why Germany? Because you know the language. This is the one reason.
Absolutely,
right?
because yeah, so this is, I think it was a very personal choice for me, because at that time I wanted to really experience the German business culture. So for me, there was no other, I mean, I didn't even consider any other option other than Germany. So it was a really fun experience. I was here for 2.5 years, and then I moved back to India after that.
After pursuing MBA.
After doing my MBA,
Okay. Why?
because for two reasons. One, first reason was more personal, because my boyfriend at that time and my husband now was in India, and I made a choice out of love, so to go back to
Oh.
India. And also, I was really, I got this job around the same time in India at the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. So you
that
got
was a
the
good,
job in Indo-German after pursuing
yeah,
MBA and going
after
back to.
doing my MBA. So I
Okay.
thought that was a good deal.
Can you quickly, in short, explain how to take admission to MBA in Germany?
You first source your universities, which universities, what department you want to do. And then one interesting thing about Germany is every university is unique, every university is autonomous. So every university will have its own rules.
But how do you
And
find those universities
you
online?
have to search online, you have to spend hours online and do your due diligence
Just
and
Google,
research.
or are there any specific websites?
There are a few specific websites, like the DAAD website, the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst. It is the German academic exchange service. It kind of is a snapshot of many universities, and especially universities which have scholarships. So, and one thing amazing is most universities are publicly funded, so you pay very less fee.
What is the difference between publicly funded and private?
So there are a lot of universities which are private universities, like any private, like a privately set up university. Some have public-private partnerships. Some departments have public-private partnerships, and some are government universities, like how we have back home. Our central universities or IITs. They're public
So
universities.
is it true that studying in public universities is absolutely free?
It depends on that. That's what I'm saying. So ideally, it is free because it's a public university, but there could be some departments which have extra facilities, or which may have English professors or professors who teach in English, where they may have to pay them more. So the course fee may be slightly higher. So this is just one of examples. I'm not generalizing the whole space. So ideally, public universities are free or with very moderate fee. You have to still pay for the Visa blocked account. That is something one shouldn't forget. You have to put a sum of money. I think it's close to 10,000 euros for 1 year. You have to just put it, and that is a requirement for visa. More than the university, it's a requirement for the visa. And the good thing about it is that every month you're allowed to take some 700, 800 euros out of it, because that's ideally your expense as a student. If you're
So it's
and
your money, but you
your
just need to
money,
block it for
and
1 year.
it is curated for you, and that is only for the first year, with the idea that in the second year hopefully you do an internship or
work student or
whatever
something
you
like that.
fend for yourself. But the first year you have this money, you can focus on your coursework, you can worry about all the bureaucracy or the intercultural things.
Do they also give some
No interest on it. No interest. No, that was the first question everybody asks. It's a blocked account, no interest on it.
So in summary, I could say that studying in Germany could be a good option, depend on university also.
Yeah, depending on the university, what is the subject that you're studying, what do you want to do after your studies? Back then I wasn't also so aware, I think. I think nowadays there are so many cool courses in psychology, the courses in policy making. So I didn't really think about all these options.
If I look at your career history, you are always specific. So you started with German learning and you did your bachelor's, and then again you worked in this
I've
ecosystem.
been very consistent
Consistently
with Germany and my Indo-German space, and I am very passionate about that space, to be honest.
So I think my perspective is, whether you want to do masters or MBA, if you want to become a successful being as an entrepreneur or maybe as a normal in the corporate world, you have to be very specific. You need to showcase that you are a subject matter expert of something, so that you can.
So absolutely, yeah. I think consistency and reiteration of because I think it kind of creates that expertise in you, and also that kind of confidence in you to.
I mean, obviously, you
share it with
can
other
change
people.
your field at any point of time if you think that it's not working with you. Obviously, that's also an option.
Yeah, because I have absolutely changed my fields, because even though it was in German, it was first more in a literature space, and then it was into business, and then it was into startups. I did a bit of intercultural. So I think it's always good to add different niches to your existing palette, but to still have kind of like a grounding on one topic, I feel was useful to me, because and become multidimensional in one aspect, because there's so many areas that you can explore just within this space.
How did you manage to find a job after pursuing MBA from Germany?
That was a nightmare. I think I sent about 100 or 115 applications. I got a call back for two. Two people called me for an interview. One was, I don't even remember, it was very random. And the other one was Deutsche Welle. And I immediately jumped at Deutsche Welle. I'm like, this is it. This is it. I want to do this. And then when I was applying, so at that time, because I was sure that I was going back to India, I didn't focus too much time in applying in Germany after masters for a full-time regular job. And when I went back to India, I took some time off, and then for a couple of months I was trying to figure out, what are the new areas. I didn't still officially graduate by then, and by the time I graduated, I found this job at the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce.
There are many people who are studying in Germany and they are struggling to find a job. What could be your piece of advice for them? What should they do?
You mean to say graduates who have
Graduates or maybe
graduated
master,
and who are looking for jobs here? I think that's actually a pretty laborious process, to be honest. I think it's also the way we look for jobs. I think going through an HR, because there are a lot of these online HRs who are on LinkedIn, who basically act as access points to multiple corporates.
It's like a headhunters.
Kind of. They don't call themselves headhunters, but yeah, they're HRs, headhunters, absolutely. I think going through them is also a good option, because it's a win-win, because they also have something to get out of it, and they are also constantly looking for good experts or good talent. And I think Germany that way is still more traditional in terms of job applications. Things are done through their websites.
Like Make It in
mostly.
Germany? I heard.
I've heard of this, but I've
Yeah, so
not
Make It in
used any.
Germany, I mean, I know about that because I have
Okay.
also gone through that. It's like a
Okay.
website or portal run by a federal employment agency.
Ah, yes, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So I think most of the job postings you will find there because
Uh-huh.
in order to sponsor visa, I'm talking about now hiring from non-European region. In order to sponsor the visa for them, they need to post the advertise on their on their website, Federal Employment Agency
Oh,
website, and they need
okay.
to prove
Yeah.
that we are not able to find appropriate skill set within the European region or within
That's
the
why we
country.
are
That's why we are
sourcing
resourcing from.
elsewhere.
Yeah. So
Smart.
I think Make It in Germany could be one good resource for the people if they want to find a job in Germany.
But I think one one thing is lot of perseverance, because
Yeah.
I think I think the kind of rejection that you face here for
Competition as well.
I think more rejection than competition, because I don't know if you're really competing with, what are we competing against is something that I'm really doubtful about. Are we competing against the local talent? But no, because you're saying there's like Fakraft Mangal, and you're saying that there is no enough skilled resources, and
Yeah.
hence you're looking
We need
out.
people.
So are we really competing against that, or are we competing at other expats who are also looking for jobs? So that I'm a bit doubtful about as to what we are competing. But my personal theory, I don't know, it's just a perception, is I think it's also the way one should package the CV or ourselves as to what the German company or the German HR is ideally looking for. Because I think sometimes, even if there is no competition, your CV may not cut the bill, even though you have like really great skill set,
Skills,
or
yeah.
maybe somehow it's not translating across on paper, or some intercultural barrier is there, or this something that's off, which is not being able to be translated in a more accurate manner.
Most of the corporates, like if I talk about mid scale or big scale, they have applicant tracking system installed in their system.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a kind of algorithm that filters out the CV which is irrelevant. And the irrelevancy is based on some stages. So they scan your work experience, your skill set, whether it is closely matching to the job description. If your CV is scattered and it is not giving you the feeling or impression of subject matter expert of something or
Absolutely.
specificness, then
Yeah,
I
that's a
guess
very
it's like
good
a,
point. I
yeah.
want to say one thing on that, because if you see this, because I was saying that I did intercultural trainings a little bit, right? So this question used to come up a lot about CVs, and how do we establish ourselves with our German counterparts, that we do own this, we do have full ownership on this topic, and we are experts on this. But the problem also comes up, that if you see an ideal Indian CV, like an average ideal, basic CV, you see the word flexible a lot. And you also
Yeah.
see that I can do this, I can do that, I can be a finance person, I can be an HR person, I can also do operations, I can do, multiple things, which could be true. But then if you mention that to an ideal German company, that will just confuse them, and they're like, what are you?
How you can be so much
Yeah,
flexible?
where is this flexibility coming from? And that just, but in an Indian scenario, that can be a really good, like a positive thing, that okay, this person is flexible enough to do multiple things, or has some kind of basic expertise. In the way it's read is absolutely
Yeah.
different in both ecosystem.
I want to ask a question from different angle. Like
Okay.
in the world of patriarchy, how did you manage to become successful? Is it really a problem? Like male dominance is really a thing, or it's just a myth?
No, it's not a myth.
Yeah. Okay.
Things are male dominated, and for me, I mean, it's also both a personal journey and a professional journey. And it's great that you asked this question, and I think you asked it with some hesitation. I don't think you should feel any hesitation in asking this, because I have also been in your space and moderated many female entrepreneurship, women leadership forums. And usually people are very open about talking about their professional struggles, but women are not open about
Not
talking about their
exactly.
personal struggles. And when I had a baby, my first thing was, how are these women planning their day? How are they working? And I wanted tips on how are you managing your 8 hours? When are you working? How are you dealing with your budgets? How are you dealing with your household? And it's not a problem. Here comes the patriarchy, and it's not a problem of just me to worry about it. It's also my partner's problem, and it's also the problem of other male dominated spaces to worry about it. And it's also not a question which should be asked only in female entrepreneurship spaces. And it might be spun off differently, saying like, oh, why are you asking me this question? It's a sexist question. But I would like to ask this also in a fully male space or in a diverse space, that okay, you had a baby, how are you managing your work time and your other time? I think it's not just the family which needs to be aware of it. It's also the communities and especially workspaces that need to be aware of it. And if a guy asks for a paternal leave or some it's absolutely okay for guys to give a reason that, oh no, I have to take care of my child, so I need a leave, is as normal as a woman asking for it, and it's not just the woman's problem.
But is it difficult to have a kid in Germany versus having kid in India?
I think it's not that black and white. It has its pros and cons. Because I moved to Germany when my kid was 3 months old, and if I think about it now, I was like, what the heck? What did I do? Because if I look at the old pictures, she's like this much, and I'm like, I carried this, and I just came here in peak of winter or whatever, because I'm still very Asian or Indian, like thinking winter is still something like big deal for us. So, and when we are talking about services, yes, like had I lived in India the first year of my baby's childhood, she would have been spending it with her grandparents. I
Grandparents
sometimes
as well.
feel I robbed it from my in-laws and my mum. The time the kids spent with the grandchildren is absolutely beautiful and important, and it comes with also that emotional sensitivities which a child grows up with. And the other thing is the services. It's very easy to hire support, household support for nannies. All these things are so much easier in India
In
as
India, yeah.
opposed to here.
But here it's not common, right? It's not
It's not.
common.
It's. I mean, I know people who have it,
Okay.
but it's expensive,
It's expensive.
and I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is sustainable having that expensive childcare, but otherwise, for me personally, the German Kita system, the Kindertagesstätte, kindergarten system, it's amazing. I'm extremely thankful to that. And in Berlin, it's most of the public Kitas are free of cost.
But I want to ask about this one. This is a very interesting topic because I heard from many other families that when your kids started going to Kita, they obviously tried to speak the language German, obviously, and
Yeah,
they start learning their culture. So
which is a great thing.
it's a great thing, but for some Indian traditional parents, they think that they are losing their
There,
cultural aspect.
so that
The
see
kids
the
are.
yeah, valid thought process, but it begins at home. So at home you teach so my kid, for example, is now being brought up with three languages, and I also grew up with three languages: Marathi, Telugu, and English. And my kid is now growing up with German, English, and Telugu being the first language. And we we don't make it a deliberate point, but we organically speak Telugu at home because my husband is Telugu. I'm comfortable in Telugu. And my kid speaks Telugu at home. And English is everywhere. I think there's no need to be insecure about English. Everybody learns English in some form of the other. So it comes. And German, she speaks German in the Kita. And then she carries some Telugu words to Kita. And we have explained some words to the Erzieherin or the other teacher there, that what is the word for water, because that, what is the word for hot, and like what is the word if she falls down. And they are as wonderfully accepting about it, and they are also curious if there are also deeper cultural aspects about the way you are brought up and so on. I think that is something you can be worried about when they are teenagers, or I don't know, but
Yeah.
right now maybe it's I didn't think about it, and if I will worry about it when I cross that bridge. I'm not worrying about it now.
Yeah.
It's no point to worry about things
Yeah.
that have not yet happened.
Okay.
But I have also come across conversations like this about, I think you need to buy good books and read with them and kind of engage as to what your identity is,
Yeah.
because this is something which is also very new to me. I don't know how she will grow up to be or what she associates herself to be, if she will be, or if we will even be here till that long. Maybe we go back to India next year, and I want her to be as comfortable and as rooted in both these spaces. And I know Germany will be in my life, so it'll be in her life in some form or the other. So yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
asked this question because there are many Indian families who want to move here, but they are not sure about the education system for their kids
yeah.
and how it sounds like. Is it going to affect their children in some, like, are they going to influence by the Western culture? And
I mean, there are
yeah,
so many, there's such a large Indian diaspora in the US.
yeah,
I think I think it's a mix of both. I'm sure, and also thinking that there should not be any influence at all is a very bizarre thing. If you think that culture is so unnecessary for you, why do you want to come here? It's a mutual thing. It's a thing that you blend in and you create something of your own. And I'm not talking in a very idealist way, because at the end of the day it has to happen both ways. You can't keep pushing one side, and if the other side is not responsive, there is no point.
true.
But also to come with, there's no need to worry about, I think at this point there is no need to worry about so much baggage. And India is also pretty liberalized in some formats, I think, nowadays. So if you need to worry about the western culture, it can happen in India also. You don't need to like fly 7.5 hours to come to Germany and worry about
Yeah.
it.
Now you are running your own show, if I am correct.
Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah. Can you enlighten us about your company or your venture called
Yeah,
Primed
primed in fabric.
Primed in Fabric? Yeah.
So I think it happened about around the pandemic time, and so I was working at the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and I was pretty much working. Like I said, I was a generalist doing many things, but focused pretty much on cross-border relations between Germany and India, definitely startups, intercultural management, and so on, and working with G2G partnerships between governments. These were some of the areas that I was working with at
What is
the
G2G?
government to government.
Ah, sorry.
But in 2020, about around just when the pandemic started, I wanted to really focus more on the startups and innovation side, and I wanted to work with more initiatives, and I wanted to see how I can really create some value by being a bridge builder in these two spaces. And that's when I put down my papers at the chamber, and I started with just consulting by myself for various projects. And I was also, trying to understand what are really some areas between Germany and India where there can be collaboration that can be formed. It could be one top thing, which has also kind of become a buzzword now, is digitalization. But what do you mean when you say digitalization? In what spaces? So I really wanted to take some time, research, and do it. And like I said, I started off consulting specifically for German-led startup initiatives. One is the German Indian Startup Exchange Program, which is GINZEP, which is a networking platform between a bilateral networking platform between Germany and India. It focuses on exchange of startups between these two spaces, helps in provides information, creates networks for your setting up journey, to do soft landing programs, to do market access between both countries, and so on. And of course, the other one was Asia Berlin, which I was anyway involved since much before, since 2016.
You said that you resigned from your company and you started consulting. I mean, from the word, it sounds pretty easy, but I am sure that it's
Oh
not
my
that
God, it
much
wasn't
easy.
easy at
So I want to ask
all.
you, what are the trigger points? What are the thoughts, and how did you manage your funding, secure your funding? How is the process?
So that's the thing, right? So if you are if you are, like, for example, a fully bootstrapped startup, that's a different challenge. But here it was me, and I knew that I would be able to work with a few. I mean, I had some confidence that I would be able to, work with a few initiatives. One of the main trigger points that I had when I was, thinking this move is to have control on my own time, because I think I think in India specifically, here I see it a bit differently, but in India, we don't respect our time. We don't respect, we see that, like, for example, when we are thinking about setting a startup, for example, we always think about fixed costs, or, okay, if I go here, I will spend this much, but we don't think in terms of how
Time.
much my time is worth. I really wanted to go full flung with my own, without any having any hierarchies or any external pressures of working with an ex agency. If I wanted to approach them and see if there is any collaboration perspective, and that's exactly what I did. I started reaching out to different counterparts, both from the German side and the Indian side, if I could just do a program with them. And in the pandemic, maybe not many startups or entrepreneurs say this, but the pandemic was a huge benefit for me,
Yeah.
because the amount of time again I saved, I could have like 8 meetings a day, and I didn't have a child back then. So I was, both of us, my husband also, both of us, it's not like only my problem, even he didn't, like, both of us could spend our 100% on building something or just trying out something and tinkering something. And we didn't have, um, like, I mean, we still had bills to pay, and we had to run our households, and we had some confidence that few things will work out and few other things were absolutely exploratory. So it was a mix of chasing opportunities and exploring opportunities.
What do you think, being an entrepreneur or being into the corporate world, is Germany really a place for entrepreneurs?
It's not a yes or no question. One is, especially because, again, coming back to the point where between India and Germany, it is definitely a place for Indian entrepreneurs, because yes, there is bureaucracy, there is, and it is a reality, and it needs to be addressed, especially in form of digitalization, especially in the public sector, and also in terms of scale, because I think German bureaucracy is fine, because it was there. There are beautiful structures placed around concepts, and there are implementators also, but I think it needs to be a little more faster, and it needs to be updated a little more, because you're inviting the world to your country. You're calling yourself a country of migration, and that needs scale. For the number of people, the population of Germany maybe 10 years ago and now is vastly increasing, and you need to update your bureaucracies and technologies to meet the scale. Otherwise, you will be stunted in walking the talk. And I said it's a place for Indian entrepreneurs because there are so many areas where India and Germany beautifully complement each other. And that is exactly what I'm doing with Primed and Fabric, because we are focusing on these complementing areas for startups to collaborate with each other. Especially, it could be in terms of digitalization, it could be in terms of recycling and renewables, because Germany has some amazing competencies in one sector, and India has amazing competencies in perhaps, say, digitalization, and you can make a beautiful match out of this. And if there is perhaps, let's say, a startup on the German side, who is an AI based startup and who is looking for data to train your AI for, let's say, cancer screening, and your market is only so much on the Indian side, on the German side, you need to look elsewhere to train your AI. And India can pose as a great case study for you to partner with any startup on the Indian side, who works with diagnostics, who works with data within this sector. And that's a beautiful match made. It's time Germany also looked at India for technology co-creation and equal innovation. A lot of Europeans, or a lot of people from the West, or businesses from the West, looked at India because, oh, it's a cheap destination, inexpensive destination for labor, or setting up my
Resources.
factory. That's also still to an extent true, because the price, like anybody earning in Bangalore can give you a great run for your money to a tech employee working in Berlin. But there are so many more reasons why you should collaborate with India, and not just because it's inexpensive. You need to look at India for the technologies it's coming up with, for the policies that it is setting up with, and just the kind of market size that we have, and the way it's becoming an economic superpower in Asia, and also especially for Germany in terms of its de-risking, perhaps from China. So there are multiple reasons why Germany and India should work together.
But you
and
talked from one direction, Germany towards India.
both
But
India from Germany
how
as
a
well.
entrepreneur or maybe a company or a founder or just a person who is working in India and have some ideas, how he or she can crack that door of entry
So
into the
I
Europe?
think, so good point that you mentioned that I'm talking only from Germany to India, because I think ideally, from an Asian perspective, there is always this baggage for us that, oh, we need to go to the West. I think that narrative is also changing. The West also needs to come to the East. And, there's also so much more need for the West to look at East to solve your problems. And coming back to your point, there are multiple channels of engaging into to the local ecosystem if you want to set up, or if you want to be an entrepreneur here. But I think it's also important to take a step back and understand, do you really want to set up in Germany or collaborate in Germany? That's also a question that one needs to ask oneself. FDI is always great. Always, you as an international entrepreneur setting up in Germany is wonderful, solves KPIs for so many government projects. But I think it's also leaner and more cost effective for you to first understand who are your right collaborators. If you can run your operations from India, if you really understand the future of work perspectives and see what is the most cost efficient format for you as a startup or as an entrepreneur to work with Germany. I think one thing about Germany, it's a little bit traditional in its approach. If you're a startup or anybody setting a company is setting a company. There is no separate kind of thing like, oh, you're a startup, you are an SME. So that kind of demarcation doesn't really exist so much. There may be some programs very limitedly, or given some grants after you set up. But for setting up, I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't know so many programs which just they help you in terms of, like, a lot of city governments, like for like I said, they help you in the process of setting up. But it's your struggle at the end of the day. You have to put your energy. Nobody is gonna handhold you, or
Yeah, that's
take
obvious.
you
Yeah.
through the process. And yeah, these taxations and all these things are a reality. So like I said, until you have a clear sales channel, or a clear mandate as to why you're coming to Germany, please take a very calculated step.
Right,
Otherwise, collaborate in some form, create channels through existing partners in Germany as to how you can work with each other. And so, like I said, I'm very personally also very passionate about this topic, because this is the exact area that we are working with to create channels of collaboration with complementing startups that can support each other across their value chain. And that builds trust, that creates a good exposure for you in that ecosystem, gives you a 360-degree idea about what are the kind of bureaucracies. And after that, setting up becomes much easier, because you already spent some 6 months here doing a pilot or doing a POC with a local company. You actually know local people here. Even though you don't know the language, you are on some friendly terms, or have some trust on some local partners to ask questions. So you first have that soft landing phase and source partners, and then setting up is more ideal according to my perspective.
Yeah. I think it was really a nice discussion with you, Amrita. I guess we are done here. I am through all the questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I also enjoyed the
Yeah.
conversation. It was pretty smooth. Yeah.